we go. It's another edition of Old Crimson. Ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by Flat Stick Pub as we bring you into the greatest intro ever. Flat Stick Pub, Cougar owned and operated, 6 amazing locations across the state of Washington. Kirkland, Pioneer Square, South Lake Union, Spokane, Bellingham, and Redmond. They've got you covered for date night, ladies night, guys night, large group events. Great for kids, and of course, great place to watch and celebrate the Cougs. Visit flatstickpub.com. Every week, we are joined by the pillars of the Washington State football community. Ladies and gentlemen, he was an All-American safety at Washington State, went on to star in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals. It's Paul Sorensen. Paul Sorensen, 28. You can follow him on social media. And, of course, Jim Moore, legendary Coug. Did he graduate from the Edward R. Murrow School of Communication?
Why don't you ever introduce me ahead of Sorensen?
Because
why
he's
not?
a bigger deal than you. You can follow him at Cougs. Go.
Yeah, he is. He is. He was an All-American. And
No.
Yeah, I did graduate from the Murrow School.
They just go from right to left
that.
on the radio dial. That's why. That's all.
Is that what it is?
That was fun.
Okay.
That came to a crashing halt.
Well, you're both All-Americans.
I did graduate. What was your GPA, you guys? Mine was a 3.15 cumulative.
I don't know.
Yes, you do. Everyone knows their GPA.
I don't. Then I'm the one person that doesn't know. I do not recall my GPA in college.
What'd you have,
wasn't
Paul?
really important to me.
Paul?
3.4. 3.4.
Impressive.
Yeah, I was an academic All-American.
Not bad.
Whatever that means. That means I went to class and turned my work in. I guess that's all you had to do. So it wasn't that hard.
Yeah. Well, good.
Unlike now where you just have tutors and stuff, we had to do our work. But thank God for Marie in the football office. She helped me type up half my papers, and that was appropriate.
Oh, God.
Of course she did.
Marie's cool.
No, but yeah, she
Puck must have been under a 3-point. He must have been under a 3-pointer. He'd be.
Well, he had fun though. He could go out and enjoy the college experience. He hung out at the Coug.
I guess I really wasn't worried about my GPA, Jim. Unlike you, I was worried about other stuff in college, but that's okay. You and I were built a little different in college.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
I had a 1.8 one semester.
Yeah.
1.8.
Wow.
That was impressive. Going deficient. Yeah. Thank you very much. Go Cougs.
Well, listen, you survived.
Yeah.
Like the Cougars survived. Well, they didn't really survive. They handled business. Paul Sorensen, they handled it against Toledo. It was kind of it wasn't a clean game. It wasn't great at times. It was ugly, but I liked it. I thought it was an ugly win with some exciting plays, but this is exactly the type of football I thought Jimmy Rogers would coach this team up this year when he took over the job. Your thoughts?
You know, and you go back when Jim was going to jump off the cliff at Idaho and was all ready to fire Jimmy. And we had talked, and I'm going to go back and just say we had to give this team, we had to give this team a little slack because you're going from the air raid, you're going from a passing offense. You know, you've lost 2 starters up front. Hilborn's still out. He's a huge part of this offense at tackle. You know, you also had another guard go down. So they're playing with some backup dudes. And basically the running backs, Voorhees has been really, really good. Pulasi has been really good, but they're creating their own holes. So they've had to be good. And the difference in this team is when Zevi comes in, he can run the football. He was their leading rusher. He had 74 rushing yards, scored a touchdown, threw a couple of picks, 4 interceptions in the last 2 weeks. That's got to clean up, okay? But that's the thing we talked about, the good Zevi and the bad Zevi. You're going to get both of him, but he can run the ball. That makes a difference in this offense. And yet, who won the football game? It was the defense. And the defense shoved it. And basically they took Toledo completely out of their game, as Jim saw, because he was there. And I've never been more excited about a team that is boring as hell, you know, and then just figures out a way to kind of creep through and basically just kind of shut teams down. And they've done it on the defensive side. And that's the thing that Jimmy Rogers prided himself on. That's what he did at South Dakota State. And they're kind of metamorphosing this football team into what he is and did at South Dakota State, which I like.
Jim, you were there. I'm not sure if you had your shirt off like many other students did, but what was your thoughts, your takeaway from watching them cruise to a relatively easy win against Toledo?
Well, yeah, I was watching the metamorphosing in person. That was impressive. I don't even know if that's a word, Paul, but it makes you sound smart anyway.
It probably
with
is
your
not,
analysis. I enjoyed that. Yeah.
That's why your GPA was higher than mine. I'm sure,
it was fun. It was so much fun. Once I was able to negotiate my Game Time app and get my ticket and get into the game, that's another story. But no, it was fun being there. The crowd was into it. Paul, you're right. The defense was the key to the game. And as far as they had 2 4th-down stops. I mean, I know Toledo coming in, they were favored in the game by 1.5. It wasn't much. It was basically a pick'em game. We couldn't understand why Toledo would be favored over us, especially after we had good showings at Ole Miss and Virginia, and then we come home, Parents' Weekend, and so the Cougs just, I guess you can use the old cliche, they took care of business. And as far as Zevi goes, I just feel like he can do no wrong in my book because I know what our other options are at quarterback, and he's clearly the best option. One of his interceptions was a bad throw. He threw it off his back foot into coverage and all that. The other one, he got hit. It was tipped or something. So I don't really, I don't mind. I think he's going to be fine in Corvallis, and but I'm really nervous about that game. Yeah, I'm normally not nervous going against a team that's 1-7, but the factor that's changed with the Beavers, and I know we'll get into it. I'm getting ahead of you, Puck, probably, but Rob Akey being the coach is what worries me the most because he can fire those guys up, and I'm concerned the Beavers might pull off an upset on Saturday. Did I not read the board there?
Rob Akey's got you nervous?
Yes, he does have me nervous. Very much so. You know, when he's not saying Bubba, he's an emotional guy that I want to play for. I would run through a wall for Rob Akey. I love that guy.
I like Rob too, but I don't know how much Rob Akey's going to have an impact on the game on Saturday. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
I will say this though, and I love Jim.
With you
I agree with you. I agree with Jim on that.
What's
He'll have
his
that
big
team
impact on the field going to be?
They're going to blitz the crap out of them. They're going to have blitzes you haven't seen all season. Go back to the Holiday Bowl when Washington State played Texas and knocked them off. They had 11 new blitzes that he was able to kind of bring in and do some stuff on under Bill Doba. That surprised the hell out of that Texas Longhorn team. You'll see some blitzes this weekend you haven't seen all year. Just mark my word. That's what he'll bring. He's had a extra week to prepare.
But
I mean, you know, just from a scheme standpoint, you'll see some things that are different. That's what he does. So, and that's okay. But they'll have to be prepared for that.
Okay. Well,
you're not convinced, Buck. You're not convinced at all.
I'm really not. I mean, I think it comes down to talent. I'm really not convinced that Rob Akey's going to make some unbelievable turnaround for the Oregon State Beavers.
Okay.
I mean, you know what? If they lose, then we'll sit back here a week from now and I'll say you guys were right. And yes, they've had 2 weeks to prepare for it. And again, I think he'll motivate them for sure. And I think Oregon State is going to be motivated because it's a quote conference opponent. And I don't think Washington State is still at this point where they can just walk in and cruise to a victory. I mean, he was asked about it this week, and how do you motivate your guys? A team that are 1-7. I love what Jimmy. Here's why I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned because of who the head coach is for Washington State. That's why I'm not concerned. Yep. I'm not concerned that they're not going to show up against Oregon State because when he was asked about motivating his team of facing a 1-7 team, he stopped whoever was asking the question mid-question, said, "We're 4-4. Like we're not all that good." And that was just a great response by him. So I don't know. Maybe they'll come out fired up early on and he'll have them. But I think emotion only lasts so long and eventually talent, wears you down and better coaching wears you down. So,
well, Jimmy talks about his team and what they're going to do, not worried about what the other team and they're going to do. He's going to focus on Washington State and getting them to play at the best ability that they can play at and not worry about Oregon State. And that's what a good coach does. And that's what Jimmy does. So, that's a great point, Puck.
If I go back to Jim, I'm going to go back to you. Go back to September 18th. I'm reading something says maybe we'll look back and just say we had some growing pains with Jimmy Rogers. But if I look at him now, are we ever going to get back to playing competitive Cougar football? Unfortunately, early returns, particularly the handling of the quarterbacks, make you wonder if we've made the right hire. Have they made the right hire, or are we still thinking they did not?
That?
Huh?
Who wrote that? What a freaking idiot. Who was that?
Jim Moore, the go-to guy.substack.com.
Okay. Did you really? Okay, number one point I'd like to make. Did you really have to bring that up to try and embarrass a co-host of yours in front of Cougar fans like that? Was that necessary?
You wrote it on your website.
Okay. Well, I know, but did you need to bring it up?
That
I'm
was
just
mean.
asking. You've changed your opinion because you wrote another story this week where you've said you're back on Jimmy Rogers, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And my second point I'd like to make is that what was my second point? Oh, I know. It just took me a while to figure out what it was. Are we not wrong a lot of the time when we say things and we write things? And it would be worse if I just, came out after that Toledo game and said, God, it was just Toledo. I'm not so sure about this Rogers guy. And yeah, we came close against Ole Miss and Virginia, but we didn't get the job done. So an L is an L is an L. So why is everybody all excited about Jimmy Rogers? All he did was bring over these South Dakota State kids that are clearly not quite good enough to make an impact at this level. I mean, would it have been better if I had just stuck to my guns and said all that crap instead of saying, oh my God, I'm impressed with what the Cougars are doing, especially what they're doing on both sides of the ball where they're shorthanded. The offensive line missing guys. Paul has talked about that. Defensively, they've been missing guys. And my favorite thing, old school me, and I think if I'm new school me or middle school me, junior high me, whoever me I am, I'm so damn impressed with the effort that we put out on every single play. Those guys rally to the ball, and as long as they get Angel Johnson off the field, we'll be good to go.
Jesus.
So what
I'm playing? I hung a curveball for you there, Puck. Now don't leave me hanging like that.
Hey,
okay,
he's
Puck
just
does not like Angel Johnson. I don't know what Cougar fan does. He's probably a nice kid, but man,
he just had a bad year. He's just had a bad year. I mean, there's no way around it. He just hasn't been good. But they saw, you know what? They gave him opportunities last week. There was like 2-3 carries, and then they pulled the plug. They pulled it immediately and went right back to Voorhees and Puolasi. Paul, we talked earlier in the season. I think that we were confused with the quarterback situation. I remember doing those shows like what they're doing. He took some bumps early on. They did not look good against Idaho, but what they have done, Paul, has gotten better every single week. That's just a sign of very good coaching.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And I think the thing that you've seen, the maturation process, especially defensively, look what Tucker Large did in the last game. He had 13 tackles, a safety, tackle for loss. The defensive backs have been really playing well. And yay, Washington State finally got their first interception with, Parker McKenna, the transfer from Portland State. There's another FCS guy that's come in, has gotten better and better. And Jimmy signaled him out in the press conference saying that last year on film, he looked like he was playing tight, under Dicker's defense. He's kind of been free flowing, and he had a really good game. He had, I think he had 11 tackles as well, but that whole defense, has really been flowing and doing some great stuff. But offensively, you're seeing the transition. You're seeing guys, kind of, even though they've had injuries, for me, Puck and Jim, the depth, the guys that have been getting hurt, especially up front, the defensive line, they're out 6 guys, and yet they keep throwing new dudes in there in their rotation. They're playing a lot of players, and they're getting better and better. And as the year goes on, the younger guys, the freshman class here has been stepping up. They've had 10 to 12 freshmen that have really stepped up significantly and played well. And that, for me, from a future standpoint, looks really, really bright for this Jimmy Rogers coach team. So I really like what I've seen all the way through. Freshman class, sophomore class, junior class, senior class, and then just the team getting better as a whole. That really nails it on a coaching standpoint.
And Jim, we've seen him run the ball better. We talked about it briefly here with Angel Johnson, but Voorhees has run it better. Eckhouse looked good last week. I mean, they've now gone 4 straight games where they've rushed over 100 yards with a $162 against Toledo. I mean, I can't remember. When's the last time they've had 4 straight games where they've run over 100 yards? I mean, you probably have to go back to the early 80s, right? I mean, maybe there's another game, sprinkled in there, but that's what it feels like. It's been a long time since you've seen that type of production on the ground.
No, especially, again, it'd be one thing if we were doing it against Toledo and Oregon State this week, but to do it against Ole Miss and Virginia, regardless of if they took us lightly or it was on the road, it was at their house, and yeah, it's been impressive, Puck. And I know how much you enjoy that too, and I do too, especially we're getting into November now, November 1st on Saturday, and the weather will be horrible in Pullman and cold, and it's nice to have a running game. where you can close out games rather than trying to move the change. You get the clock moving, and it helps Paul, you played defense. I'm sure it's got to help the defense. It just has to.
Yeah.
Time of possession is a key stat that is huge in football games, especially early on when the weather's hot in September. But I think it's a key no matter what the weather is. And so I like that we have a balanced offense, and Voorhees is the guy that gets it going, and then Zevi being a factor in that running game too. So it's just been fun to watch the Cougs this year. And yeah, I was wrong about us after that Idaho game. I pulled the plug on going to Ole Miss because I didn't want to see us lose by 50, and I'm always going to regret that. But now just looking at us and thinking about the bowl game possibilities, and we might play in Hawaii. Jesus, I mean, it's awesome to think about that now.
I'm
follow that up.
Yes, I love it. And all you had to do is look at that last drive, Jim, at the end of the game. You nailed it when you talk about the end of the season. And really in the Leach years, they couldn't close people out, because they had to throw the ball to do it. And it's tough when you've got it. And all you had to do is look at the Apple Cup, just in his tenure. He won the first time, and they couldn't win another Apple Cup after that because they couldn't run the football. They'd rush 3, drop 8, kept everything in front, beat the crap out of the receivers. Now you've got a ground game, and they just ate up the clock. They moved it down the field, and they ran a shotgun back to the running back. He scored from 6-7 yards out, and it was just nail in the coffin. And everybody in the stadium knew they were going to run the football. They ran the football. Toledo knew they were going to run the football, and they couldn't stop it. That's the sign of a really good football team, in my opinion. And I loved seeing it, and I think it's fantastic. And that's going to be tested, on Saturday in Corvallis. But the good news, they can also throw the football when they have to. They changed their dynamics in terms of what they did at South Dakota State, where they could run it to set up the pass. At Washington State, they throw it to set up the run. And I think that's the improvement that I've seen in Jimmy's coaching, is he's changed the way that he's attacking teams. He's doing it opposite of what he did at his old place. That's a good coach.
Yeah. All right, I want to play something for you from Jimmy Rogers' press conference on Monday, and maybe you guys have seen it already on social media. This was I just think a terrific answer to a question he was asked. I believe it's from Greg Woods of the Spokesman Review, and I think it's in regards to his philosophy on recruiting at Washington State.
But yeah, it's changed surely. You're talking about the transfer portal and individual statistics, and it used to be this. You used to have a little bit of selfish bone in you to say, I had a great year. Maybe I'm worth this, right? Now you don't have to think about that anymore. Somebody's willing to call you to tell you how great you are, even though your season was average. So somebody's always willing to value you more than what you're currently at. That happens across college football. It doesn't mean that your value in which you're getting paid is the same value of how you're treated or what you're seen as. So yeah, it's getting more challenging, but they're out there. I feel like we're going to add the right players to the future of this team, and I feel like we have a really strong freshman class that if they want to do something special, it's pivotal that we stay connected. Came here to win and win a lot of football games because I believed in what the Washington State football and the whole community could do together. It's not just football. It's everybody, the alum and boosters coming together to say, this brand means something to us. Let's be competitive and be on a national stage and compete to get into a college football playoff.
There was, again, Jimmy Rogers this week just talking about recruiting. Paul, what was your reaction to that?
Love it. And because you have to re-recruit all your own guys now, because all the little agents out there whispering in everybody's ears, this is the time. There's only one transfer portal, coming up, one window now, after the bowl season, and it's going to be carnage. There's going to be a lot of people going, and there's only so many spots for these kids to land. So he did a really nice job at South Dakota State to build that culture, to keep those kids there. I mean, they lost a couple of players, but they didn't have a huge defection. And I think he's doing a really good job at Washington State to build that culture again. And you could tell by all the players that followed him from South Dakota State to Washington State, and he's rebuilding it. He's doing it right now with junior college players. He's doing it with high school players. Then he'll go out and he'll find a couple of transfer portal guys that fit the absolute need that they have, whether it's offensive line, defensive line, corner, whatever it happens to be. But I'm really excited about what he's building at Washington State, and it takes time, for him to do it. But he now realizes he let a couple of the recruits go that they had verbals early on, I think there were 4 or 5 guys that he let out of his verbals because he realized that these weren't the right guys, to come into the program. They needed either to elevate or go a different direction. He let them go. So he's changing that dynamic too. And I think that statement nailed it in terms of what Washington State needs. I love Jimmy Rogers. He is the right fit for Washington State, and I hope we can keep him for a long, long time.
Jim, he just feels like the type of kid he's going to recruit. Like we're all just going to, like you and me, who don't like everything that's going on in college football, that we're going to love the guy he recruits, that he gets to commit to that school.
Well, and it's so critical for a school like ours to get kids like that, because I think we still, and Paul does a good effort with it, the Cougar Collective, they're doing all they can do but it's still going to come down to how much is someone going to pay me? And if it makes you think twice, like let's say Washington State's offering a kid $250 and somebody else is offering $300 or $400. The kid maybe is going to go, God, I really like playing for Coach Rogers, the culture he's established here. He's meant a lot to me and my family. And I think there's something to that. And the grass isn't always greener, that kind of thing. And he's the type of coach that exemplifies that maybe the grass is green enough here. I want to play for Coach Rogers, and maybe he'll be the anti one and done coach that we need at our school, because that's got to be so difficult. You're trying to build a program, and then a kid is so good that he goes elsewhere, and then you got to start at square one again. And so I really appreciate what he's looking for in athletes, not only looking for talent, but just, the attitude, the want to, all these different things that Puck, you and I love, and Paul, you do too. And, a kid that's going to give it his all the time and love being Cougs.
And you know what, Paul? I still think that kid, that athlete is still out there. And I don't think we give enough credit to these young kids anymore, that we think all of them are just out for themselves and greedy and it's all about the money. But I do in my heart feel that type of kid is still there and still wants to be coached that way. And I think he'll tap into it. I think he'll do everything he can to find that kid. It might be more difficult now than ever, but I think he's going to find it.
Well, all I have to do is go back to Stone and Jackson, back just a few years ago, who turned down $400,000 bags as walk-ons to go to USC because they wanted to finish out as 6-year guys at Washington State University. There's people like that all over the place. And, there's there's certain circumstances where family comes in and, does things. And you think John Mateer is not rethinking things right now? At the University of Oklahoma, he's under incredible heat. Arbuckle's getting blistered. There's always going to be situations where you're going to look back and say, grass is not always greener, people. And they have examples that they can point to. But if you do a good job of building culture where you're at, and you make those kids feel welcomed and realize that what they're building here is something special, you've got a much better chance of hanging on to that, because the collectives, the stuff that they're doing at Washington State with the Cougar Athletic Foundation and the Crimson Connection and all the different things, we're not there yet, but it's getting better, and it's taking some time to build it up. But, we can compete in the new Pac-12, and we can compete to a position we're going to have a better chance to get, to where we need to be than we did in the old Pac-12. So I think that's the key, and that we've got the right guy in the right position now, and I think Washington State's in a position to move forward, and I love it. I think it's great.
And I want to get the Oregon State preview here in a second. I want to wrap it up with this, though, about this topic. I know when we heard him say this at his press conference, Jim, you and I, because we're,
cynical,
assholes, dicks, all of it. He said it again there, but when he said it the first time at his press conference, I came here to win a championship, and everyone just like rolled their eyes. Every coach says this, going to win a championship, and he said it again there this week.
He's talking national championship, not conference championship.
That's what I mean. He's dead serious. Like, he's dead serious about it. It irks him. I don't know if you guys caught it this week.
Yeah.
It was in that same press conference. It irks him. It irks him that they've lost 4 games this year. He's like, that's most games I've ever lost in my career this year.
Yeah.
It eats at him. And I do, but he just, again, everyone else can laugh and mock and say you don't have a single prayer and chance. But that guy believes, really does believe that we get in, we've got a chance. And I don't know, because there's this complex at that school that you can't compete for anything. They're too small. We're the underdog. It doesn't work. His mindset is different. It coincides, and again, with the mindset of the new president, that it's just the stop with the woe is me over there. Because it has infiltrated too much of this fan base for too many years.
I like all of us. I love the guy. I love the sleep, breathe, and eat football thing that he's got going on. But as I sit here listening to you talk about him, it's just all about the results on the field with him.
Sure.
Personality-wise, we're not going to get it. And can anyone remember him smiling or laughing? I can't.
No.
Even, like a smile, just an off smile during a press conference or a little chuckle or a snicker. You don't get that from him. It's kind of weird. And I also, this has nothing to do with anything.
I know what you're going to say. The hat. You like the way he wears his hat.
I love that I picture him getting a hat and going, God, that brim is too damn flat.
Yeah,
and I can see him just working on that. Just working on it.
Yeah.
And if he stands in front of the mirror for more than 30 seconds, it's just to work that hat. Because he wants to look like Rory. I think he wants to be like Rory.
And also he's got the little circle indent on the back of his blue jeans from his school. Like he's got that little ring around his back pocket. You know what I'm talking about?
But when is he going to laugh or when is he going to smile? Is that ever going to happen?
He does. He's actually pretty. He's got a really dry sense of humor. Yeah,
what makes him laugh?
Oh, I don't know.
What makes him laugh, do you think?
You're flipping crap about, I said one time, you're never going to have to worry about Hair Club for Men because he's just a hairy dog. And he kind of snickers. He's a good dude. He's got to feel comfortable around you. He's not a media. He doesn't like the media guys. He doesn't like doing press conferences. That's not his wheelhouse. But around the dudes, he's a pretty funny guy. He's cool. So I'm not saying that you guys, he doesn't like you guys,
Brandon,
but
I'll take your word for it.
I asked Brandon Huffman, because I was curious, what do Brandon Huffman, people don't know, 24/7 Sports, he's the recruiting guru in the country. But it really gets started here in the Northwest. I said, what is his reputation with high school coaches? They like him. They like his visibility. They like that he goes and visits these high schools, gets to know the guys. And maybe you'd say that about every coach that comes in. Maybe they would say the same thing about Jed Fish. But I don't know. I think sometimes you get coaches that don't value the high school coaches, don't value the programs, especially, in today's day and age where you focus more on the portal more than anything. But I don't know. Good signs ahead, I think, for him.
Yeah, just one more thing on him and Paul, or you guys can both answer this one. If we go 8-4, with having 75 new kids coming in and everybody sees what Washington State's doing, and especially those games against Ole Miss and Virginia, he's going to be a hot coaching candidate. I like to think that since he's a small town guy, was at South Dakota State forever, that he'll be in Pullman forever. But they're going to be coming after him. Do you see him being the kind of guy that if somebody's offering him $5 million a year, that he'd bolt?
I mean, he can't answer for Jimmy, but, I mean, after 1 year, who knows? I mean, but I know him. He's a kind of loyal guy. How many years did he spend at South Dakota State? It was 18, I think. So, he's in year one of his contract, but the amount of money that they're paying him at Washington State is peanuts. When you're talking Lane Kiffin's looking at $13.5 million to go to Florida, and that's the number that they laid on his desk as an extension at Ole Miss. So, I mean, it's crazy the amount of money they're throwing around to these coaches. And if he does a great job and they're going to throw that kind of money around at him, how are you going to begrudge, Jimmy Rogers? That's life-changing money for his family. So, I mean, I hope he'd stay, but Washington State has had a tough time hanging on to good coaches. Let's be honest.
Yeah, especially this day and age, he makes $1.53 million, something like 1.53, I think, is what his deal is. And I mean, it's peanuts to what these other coaches in America are making. Yeah, it is. Well, it's it's John Mateer got more. Didn't John Mateer get more money at Oklahoma?
Got 3.
I mean, think about that.
He got twice as much.
It's crazy. All right. All right, final thoughts, predictions, Oregon State. You guys now got me nervous about Oregon State. And, I wasn't nervous, and now you guys are all just scared to death because Rob Akey is going to somehow bring back the Palouse posse, for God's sakes.
I worry about the chainsaw. I worry about the atmosphere there.
Hey, Jim, am I a bad fan that I want to hear it a few times? Because I love the chainsaw. I fucking love it.
Oh, the chainsaw is awesome. I mean, Corvallis on game day is great. I consider them our friends. I say go Beavs to Beaver fans down here in Bend.
But a tough year for the Beavs, man.
Oh,
Jesus.
boy. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
God
and we can relate to everything they're going through, and they can relate to everything we're going through. And so, I mean, I wouldn't bother me if we ended the game in a tie, to be honest. But I know that's a stupid thing to say. But, yeah, I'm concerned about the game, and I think Akey's going to be a factor. And I worry that he's going to be on – who are we on, CBS? We're national this week.
We're on CBS, but I've never heard of the broadcasters doing the game.
Well, I'm concerned that he's going to, be at the end of the game having the coaches, the winning coaches, victory, interview.
Okay. God, Jesus.
No, man, I am. Well, we're only favored by 3.5, Puck. I mean,
I like what you're doing it. Paul, what you share that concern?
No.
Oregon State comes in. They've only got one win on the year against Lafayette. Anthony Hankerson is their number one guy. Their running back. He's got 671 yards on the ground. Can't throw the football. There's some talk and thought that he's going to make a quarterback change this week. So I guess we don't know who actually will play quarterback for Oregon State. So I guess we'll have to wait and see when they kick it off 4:30 there in Corvallis.
They beat Lafayette, which is an FCS school, okay? Great. Good. They got their win. They got it off. And, of course, they got a bye, which is the fourth team that Washington State has played this year that's coming off a bye when they play them. And they still hung pretty good against Virginia and Ole Miss. There were teams that were coming off a bye that were pretty decent. I look at Oregon State. I don't see Virginia or Ole Miss in terms of talent. Murphy was the Duke transfer. They got $1.5 million to transfer, and he's the guy that throws more interceptions than he does touchdowns. I think it's 9-8 in terms of touchdowns, interceptions, but he got beat out by the Johnson guy in the second half of the Lafayette game. Now, the guys I'm worried about are the two running backs. They're studs. The Hankerson guy had 200 yards rushing, I think 204 in that game last week. They're really good. They're big up front, but they're a little bit slow. They got one good wide receiver in Walker who shredded us last year, but that was a Dickard coach team. And then, of course, we fumbled late and they ended up kicking a field goal, beating Washington State late in that game after the Cougs led the entire time. And I almost threw my shoe through the television in that game. But this is a different football team. This is a defense that is not going to walk in there and have their knees quaking against the Fighting Beavs. That Washington State's won 9 of the last 11 games. Their overall record is better than Oregon State. This is a team that's a different football team coming in this year. This is going to be a close football game, but I expect the Cougs to win this thing by at least a touchdown, and it's not going to be that close in terms of it's going to be a back and forth battle. But I just feel that Washington State's better, and they're going to go in and impose their will, and they're going to do it defensively. And Zevi can throw the football. They give up 260 yards a game through the air, Oregon State does. They're a little bit better on the ground, but they're going to give up a lot of yards, and I don't think Washington State will. So, Cougs win.
There it is, another edition of Old Crimson there in the books, brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. Check out all their great locations across the state of Washington: Kirkland, Pioneer Square, South Lake Union, Spokane, where Paul is, Bellingham, and Redmond. They got you covered for everything. You want to take your buddies out? Great. You want to take your girlfriend, your wife out? Wonderful. How about your work group? It's perfect for large group events. You want to get your buddies together, your work friends together. Visit and go to Flat Stick Pub, website flatstickpub.com. Enjoy the rest of your week, boys. We'll talk to you next week, and go Cougs.
Go Cougs.